On September 11, 2001, the world watched as a non-state actor successfully struck the financial and military centers of the United States. While these attacks appeared to be a singular catastrophe, they were the conclusion of a strategy developed over the course of 20 years. The man behind that strategy was Osama bin Laden. His background suggests a path toward boardrooms rather than battlefields. Born in Riyadh in 1957, he was the son of Mohammed bin Laden, a construction magnate who rose to become one of the wealthiest individuals in the Middle East. The Saudi bin Laden group secured exclusive contracts to renovate the holy mosques in Mecca and Medina, transforming the family into an essential pillar of the Saudi economy. Osama grew up in a household of immense privilege, surrounded by the billions generated by the nation's oil-driven construction boom. By the late 1970s, he stood to inherit $30 million, the equivalent of a massive corporate fortune today. However, his interests were shifting away from the family business and toward a vision of a unified Islamic world free of foreign influence. While studying economics in Jeddah, bin Laden encountered the writings of Sayyid Qutb. These texts argued that the Muslim world was under spiritual and political siege by the West, and that a physical struggle, or jihad, was required to restore a traditional Islamic caliphate. The Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in 1979 provided the opportunity to put these theories into practice. Bin Laden moved to the border region of Pakistan, using his family wealth and engineering background to build training camps and hospitals for the Mujahideen. In the mountains of the Hindu Kush, a decentralized force of volunteers faced a modern military superpower. Over 10 years of fighting, the Mujahideen used guerrilla tactics and foreign funding to inflict high casualties and massive financial costs on the Soviet Union. To manage the flow of recruits and money, bin Laden co-founded the Maktab al-Khidmat. As the war ended, he realized this logistical network could be repurposed into a permanent global entity, which he named Al-Qaeda. Afghanistan demonstrated that a conventional military could be defeated if an insurgent force stayed in the field long enough to make the occupation unsustainable. It was a lesson bin Laden intended to apply on a much larger scale. In 1990, Iraq invaded Kuwait, threatening the Saudi border. When the Saudi royal family chose to allow 500,000 American troops to mobilize within the kingdom, bin Laden's focus shifted from the Soviets to the United States. He viewed the arrival of Western military forces in the land of Mecca and Medina as a religious betrayal. His public denunciations of the Saudi government led to his expulsion, first to Sudan and then back to the mountains of Afghanistan. From his new base, he issued a formal declaration of war against the United States. Throughout the late 1990s, Al-Qaeda launched a series of escalating attacks, including the simultaneous truck bombings of U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania that killed over 200 people. This diagram illustrates the sequence bin Laden sought to initiate. An act of terror would provoke a large-scale American military response. That response would create a sense of crisis and radicalization across the Muslim world, and that environment would provide the recruits and support needed for the next phase of the war. The September 11th attacks were the most ambitious attempt to trigger this cycle. By striking the Pentagon and the World Trade Center, bin Laden aimed to force the United States into a direct, visible conflict in the Middle East. For bin Laden, the collapse of the towers was not the end of the operation. It was the move intended to pull the West into a series of prolonged regional wars. The United States responded by invading Afghanistan and launching a global campaign against Al-Qaeda. While the initial invasion toppled the Taliban, the conflict soon evolved into a years-long counterinsurgency that spread into Iraq and beyond. Bin Laden escaped the initial American push at Tora and remained in hiding for nearly 10 years, even as the regional instability he helped create continued to intensify. In 2011, American intelligence tracked a specific courier to a compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan. The building was highly unusual, featuring walls 5 meters high and a layout designed for total privacy from the surrounding neighborhood. On May 2, 2011, U.S. Navy SEALs launched a night raid on the compound. In Washington, the National Security Team monitored the mission in real time as the SEALs moved through the building, eventually finding and killing bin Laden on the 3rd floor. Though the raid ended the life of Al-Qaeda's founder, the wars and political vacuums that followed his 2001 strikes remained. By the time of bin Laden's death, the movement he started had begun to splinter. The decentralized nature of the network allowed new groups to emerge from the ongoing conflicts in Iraq and Syria. One offshoot, the Islamic State, or ISIS, adopted tactics so extreme that Al-Qaeda's core leadership publicly distanced themselves from the group. The region faced a new wave of sectarian violence and instability that lasted through much of the 2010s. Osama bin Laden was killed in a bedroom in Pakistan, far from the battlefields he helped create. However, the sequence of events he initiated on September 11th remains a defining force in modern geopolitics, leaving a legacy of conflict that continues to shape the Middle East.